I have been a national news anchor, news at stations in markets all across the country.
And that's all I'm known for, is discovering young artists.
2 months ago, I just got hired as the CEO of a production company called Pinnacle Production Studios in Boca Raton, Florida. And I am running the studio, the sound stage, and the recording studio, and still doing voice work.
In 1991, got the job at WCSX, and I have been here ever since.
I've worked in radio for 40 years in the Detroit and Ann Arbor market.
My job at Crawford Broadcasting, which is where I am right now.
Vice President, Capital Broadcasting, Raleigh, North Carolina.
And now in the gospel arena. So my career path has not been one straight path, and I don't think anybody's is.
And 40 years later, still making radio.
And now you fast forward 22 years later, along with 135 people on my team, specializing in wedding DJs, photography, and videography.
I'm currently Director of Multimedia for Detroit School of Arts.
I'm working right now part-time at an adult alternative station.
I've been fortunate to call college football games, college hockey games, junior hockey games, and even to the National Hockey League.
Eventually, I got a full-time job at Channel 4, which that's where obviously I've stayed.
I've been working in Port Huron Radio, 96.9 WBTI, doing afternoons for the past 15 years, and I've been in the business for 21 plus.
And I am currently the TV, video, film teacher at Royal Oak High School.
And now I basically do podcasts. I do a podcast several days a week for Deadline Detroit, deadlinedetroit.com. And it is the Craig Folly Show, as you can see right behind me here.
I've been with Fox since 2000. I've been staff since 2007. And I've been directing since 1994.
I work for Intercom Communications Incorporated, WWJ News Radio 950. I'm the midday on the 8s traffic anchor, and I'm the weather lady for the Breeze middays.
I'm the marketing director for 4 radio stations here at Beasley.
The past 22 years, I've been on the air. 20 of them, fortunately, luckily, have been in Detroit.
Now engineer for the last 6 years and just having fun being in radio, just where I wanted to be.
I am sitting in our brand new studio at WCIA where I am an evening anchor.
I'm doing a couple of radio shows from home, including Throwback 2K, which is a nationally syndicated classic hits format that launches in 2021.
And I currently do mornings on Wheels 106.7.
Currently, right now, for the last 2.5 years, I have been afternoon drive host at an alternative station, Go 96.3 in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
I work for iHeartMedia Detroit.
I also produce games on a national level. I do MLB on Fox, I do college football on Fox, and then in a couple weeks I will do the first ever Spring League games on Fox.
I'm currently doing morning drive for Virgin Radio on Merge FM in Dubai and Muscat, overseas in the Middle East.
I've been at B96 for almost 2 years, and this past April I was promoted to do afternoon drive.
Now I actually run my own small design studio in Farmington, Michigan.
I'm currently the 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. director for WDIV.
I'm a technical director at WXYZ in Detroit.
I've been able to work alongside many top production companies like A. Smith & Co., Eureka Entertainment, and Blumhouse Productions most recently.
Welcome to the 2020 Specs Howard Hall of Fame induction ceremony. 2020 marks the 50th anniversary of Specs Howard, and we decided the best way to celebrate was to induct 50 new graduates into our Hall of Fame. Let's get started. Please join me in welcoming your host for the evening, Randy Z.
Thanks for joining us for the 2020 Specs Howard Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Tonight, we will be inducting 50 new members into the Specs Howard Hall of Fame, as well as 4 new members to the Specs Howard Instructor Hall of Fame. Also, we're going to take a look at our Vice President of Media Relations, Dick Kernan, who's receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. Hope you enjoy, and now, here's a word from the man himself, Specs Howard.
Hi everybody, Specs Howard here. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here to the 2020 big anniversary that we're having at the school. Good to have you here, and many years to recoup as we look backwards and stay steady at the present and look to the future. When I first got into this business, nobody taught you anything. It was assumed that you knew enough to get into the business. A friend of mine, Johnny Randall, who was also a disc jockey way back in the 50s and the 60s, said, hey, why don't you open a school? And I laughed at him because at that time, radio TV schools did not have a good reputation. And I said, I'm not interested. Well, he finally said, try it. You'll like it. Nobody, very few, getting into our industry knew the nuts and bolts of what it was about. You didn't learn sales. You didn't learn engineering. Not that you were going to be in engineering, but what do the engineers do? And the sales department, which is important, programming department, which is so important. And you meld that all together and you got a radio station. But nobody taught that specifically. And when I was trying to grow up in the business, I looked for that. There was nobody around. So when I got to the point that I wanted to start the school and do something with it, I incorporated all of those values and those individual courses and things that the students needed. And a lot of them just wanted to get in and sit down in front of the microphone and say, hey, look at me, I'm a star. But they found out that the nuts and bolts behind the scenes were really so vitally important to them. And it grew to what it is today, I'm happy to say, not because of me really, but because of the wonderful staff that I was able to hire. There's so many good and wonderful people, talented people out there who are willing to come in and teach, and that's the big thing. And from there it grew, and we added TV later on, and today we sit here with the Specs Howard School, and I'm happy to say I'm really proud. And to help celebrate the school's 50th anniversary, we had to add some important elements to it, and one of the most important, congratulate our 50 Hall of Fame recipients. They've been wonderful, they took the course, they proved themselves to be such a credit to the school. So I want to take this moment to really welcome you and hope that you'll never forget the Specs Howard School. I know many of you have come back and wanted to speak or just come back when you're on vacation. And that's a sign that we did something for you and you did something for us. And I hope that continues into the future.
Thank you, Specs. Now let's talk about the instructors at the Specs Howard School, the backbone of the Specs Howard experience. Knowledge, facts, theory, technical equipment, all the things that a student needs are provided in the programs at the Specs Howard School. But the one thing that stands out in my mind over all the years that I've been here, which is about 35, the teachers, the instructors. They make the experience. You can look in a book, you can play with the equipment, but at the end of the day, are you inspired, motivated, and moved to be a part of these fascinating industries? In our Instructor Hall of Fame, right now it's a little lonely. There's one person there, and tonight we're going to add 4 additional instructors. So to do that is the current occupant of the Instructor Hall of Fame, Mr. Jammin' Jim Bell.
Thank you, Randy, for that introduction. I appreciate it. And good to see you again, Randy, even though virtually. My name is Jim Bell. I have been an instructor at the Specs Howard School of Media Arts for 35 years. And I'm sure many of you recognize me, even though I might not remember you personally. Today, we're introducing into the Specs Howard Hall of Fame 4 more instructors, since I was the first one to be placed into the Specs Howard Hall of Fame. And I will be introducing and talking about some of the attributes of each new instructor added to the Specs Howard Hall of Fame. Here are the 4 inductees into the Specs Howard Hall of Fame. First of all, Tom Profit, Bob Palmatier, Sheila Carson, and Steve Straz. Let's take a look at each instructor through the eyes of the graduate and staff of Specs Howard School.
Steve Straz is such a great instructor because he just has fun. It's so easy to see him having a good time with his students. That doesn't mean they're not working, that doesn't mean he can't be hard on them, but I can just see that he enjoys himself.
Straz is so cool. Straz is still here at the school, and he is Mr. Video, and he just is always there helping students. He does a side gig, so he's really active in the business.
I have worked with both Keela and Steve, and they are both great instructors because of their passion.
Keela and Steve, my God, 2 of the best people I've ever worked with.
Keela was so compassionate with her students and really put them first, figured out how to help them learn. And Steve's attitude is amazing. Steve never says no.
Yeah, I know Keela Carson. Yeah. I had her earlier on in my specs days, and I'll tell you one thing about Keela is she was a little hard on you. She had fun, and she was fun, but when it came down to business, it was all business, and she really, at least me, she really tried to challenge you and squeeze as much talent as she could out of you, and I took a lot of things she said to heart with me for the rest of my specs days and career.
I would have to say that I think one of the things that would have made Keela a great instructor, because I didn't ever have her class, but I just worked with her, was her amazing energy. She walked in the room and she was life embodied, and I think that was probably contagious in her classroom.
Bob Palmatier was a different story, because the year that we were together at Specs, RTV 1090, we're over on Northland Drive, the old building, his son was born. So we all pitched in and got him this little tiny tiger jacket for his son as a present.
Bob Palmatier, I enjoyed his class, and a lot of people were always sort of like, oh, writing. Yeah, well, it's an important part about it. You know, if you're going to be doing things, especially in news, you need to learn how to write. And he taught me how to be brief and how to get to the point of a story. And I think that was something that I really, really enjoyed about him.
I remember I did like a radio thing for Bob in the radio class, and I remember he sat me down and goes, you know what, I just think TV is the way to go for you. And that was kind of like my tipping point that pushed me over to the video side first. So I have to thank Bob for that. So congratulations on finding the right career for me, Bob, and also making the Instructor Hall of Fame.
Bob Palmatier, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the story that I remember he would tell sometimes is before he got into radio, while he was in radio, that he was a grave digger, and he would motion like this, like, radio is a lot better job than digging graves. And he said it so deadpan that it just cracked me up.
My memories of having Bob Palmatier as an instructor, it was so cool to find an excuse to go into his office because it was like a mini rock and roll Hall of Fame.
Both Tom and Bob were so chill. You know, no matter how kooky we got and how crazy we got, they were very laid back and chill, and they would explain things. Sometimes they would be like, you know, hey, grow up a little bit, which we needed to hear at the time. But they were always there with the answers, and they always treated us with the utmost respect, and they were just a lot of fun to learn from.
You know, Tom's a very eclectic guy, but very composed, very controlled in the way he speaks. And I'm a maniac in his class going a million miles an hour. So it was interesting to see him kind of try to like wrangle me in. And I ended up learning a lot about him. I know I talk a million miles an hour, but he actually helped me slow down a lot.
Tom Proffitt's, I remember his course having math in it. And I remember resenting that. I'm like, what in the world? I'm having such a hard time in this class. And I remember him saying, Tracy, you're gonna just get over it and do the work. Work harder. If you need me to help you, I'm here.
Sports are not a waste of time. I've been able to make a great living off of it for 25 years, Tom. But I love Tom. Tom, you know I'm messing with you. I don't even know if you remember that, but you would get me worked up, and I appreciate all the knowledge and quite frankly, the oomph that you gave me.
Tom was an inspired teacher, a visionary possessing almost magical powers to be able to predict what was to come. Wait, come to think of it, that is the definition of a prophet. Maybe I don't know Tom as well as I thought I did. Congratulations, Tom.
Now you can see why each one of these great instructors are being inducted into the Specs Howard Hall of Fame. Now let's hear a few words from Tom Proffitt.
My name is Tom Proffitt. I worked at the school for 37 plus years. My thing is you always set a goal or you set a standard and you work to that standard. So that's how I presented things in class, and we just made sure people got to that standard. It was fun to find out that they did take it seriously, and they found out that there was truth within what I was presenting. The best part about teaching is when you see the light bulbs going and people get it. I guess I always wanted people to work hard and do better and improve themselves. You know, my personal history coming from Specs used to love the term, I was a farm boy from Ohio. Coming from those kinds of backgrounds and doing a little bit better than that, or I guess marking a position in your life that you felt that you were a success. I always wanted my students to feel that they were successful. You didn't have to be at a large market. If you found something you liked and you pursued it, then I think that was a success. Later, when people would be into the business for years and come back and just their climb, their continued success, you just kind of sat back and said, maybe I had a little something to do with that. It's obviously rewarding, being recognized for something you did. So it's an honor.
Congratulations, Tom. Our next inductee is Bob Palmatier.
When I was informed that I would be joining Jim, and I'm incredibly honored to be able to work with him, learn from him. I learned how to teach from Jim Bell. Teaching something I always wanted to do. I mean, even back in, I don't know, at high school or maybe before that, I thought that'd be a great job. The opportunity to do something I've always wanted to do at a school that I graduated from and spent time at, and get to work next to, be verbally abused by people like Tom Profit and others, it was great. But every once in a while, for some reason, at the end of a lecture, the class would erupt in applause. It didn't happen very often, and it blew me away every time it did, because I thought, where did that come from? I accepted it. I said, thank you very much. That was always very, very satisfying when that happened. When my first son was born, the class chipped in and got a little bitty miniature Detroit Tigers satin baseball jacket for him. Stuff like that was really special. The most rewarding part was taking a student or students sort of from point A to point B. When they don't know how to do something, and then over time they learn how to do something, and then they get better at doing it, and you had something to do with that.
Congratulations, Bob. It's great to have had you as a student, an instructor, a fellow instructor, and as a friend. Now, let's move on to Keela Carson.
I'm Keela Carson, and oh boy, I taught at Specs Howard for just shy of 15 years. The most rewarding part about being an instructor usually happens one day when you're at your computer checking through your emails, or you're in your car and you hear your student, you see your student, or they send an email and say, hey, I'm working at so-and-so station now. Just to see them achieve their dreams and to be brave enough to take those next steps. That is so fulfilling, because you're now forever tied to their life. If you were my student, you know that I would challenge you. I hope they took away being brave and bold and unafraid. I hope they change things. See, I got into the teaching portion because I wanted to be a part of training the people that would change the industry. I just want them to be a part of the future, to make the future. It is so moving and touching, and to be inducted alongside people who taught my mother. Jim Bell was my mother's instructor. And then for him to become my mentor and friend, and Bob Palmatier, Tom Profit, Straz was my co-worker. Long after I'm gone, I'll be here.
Congratulations, Keela. Next of all, it's Steve Straz, another person I've worked with. I'm very proud of him, and also a student that I taught. Here's Steve Straz.
My name is Steve Straz, and my position is I am a DMA and BMA instructor. What led me to teach at Specs Howard was really the idea of coming in here and being able to give back, to being able to share all the skills and assets and things that I've learned over the years, and even the newer technologies, and hopefully get before students and inspire them, and maybe in some small way, shape, or form, changed their lives a little bit. And over the years, 15 years to be exact, I've taught hundreds and hundreds of students, who knows, maybe close to 1,000 different students I've met over the years. So hopefully I've helped to inspire them or change their lives in some way. The most rewarding part of being an instructor here at Specs Howard is to coach or work hands-on with a student that is maybe stumbling a little bit or struggling with some of the course content, but then all of a sudden you see that light bulb come on, right? And they get it. And then you watch them grow and flourish and start working on a whole new level. That is the most rewarding part about being an instructor, being a part of that. I am completely honored and flattered to be inducted into the Instructor Hall of Fame. It is a huge honor to take a seat alongside Jim Bell. It's an amazing feeling. Jim Bell was certainly somebody that taught me radio when I went to school here at Specs back in 1989. And it was an honor in 2006 just to work alongside of him, let alone to be in the same wheelhouse with him today. So yeah, it's truly a great honor, and I feel very blessed to still be a part of this school after so many years and to be a part of this whole entire Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Tom, Bob, Keela, and Steve. Welcome to the Specs Howard School Hall of Fame. Thank you for everything that you've done and your contribution to the school. Now let's turn it over to Randy Z.
Thank you, Jim. The Specs Howard Hall of Fame was started to honor the stories of our graduates, of which there are thousands. And the hardest part of the process was narrowing it down. Thousands of people voted for our nominees, and here are the 50 who were selected. Let's get started.
What was my favorite part of attending the Specs Howard School? There's so many things I loved. I loved meeting so many creative people. My classmates were awesome. John Bailey, Jesse Peck, Jim Palucci. I'm sure there were people whose names didn't start with J, but I loved being in the classroom with them. Another thing I loved was, and still do, was being Specs Howard's daughter, even though my classmates didn't know it. Back then I was Elisa Liebman, now of course I'm Elisa Z, and I did my best to hide the fact that Specs was my dad until it leaked out, and then eventually everybody knew and the instructors had to be even tougher on me.
My standout memory was eating late night with Ron Steinman and going to a golf course with him and drinking before I got sober, and that's it.
I would say a standout memory for my time in class is just the fact that Dick and Specs used to actually teach the classes, and that was always fun. Another standout memory was after almost finishing everything, going down to the Federal Building and taking the third class FCC licensing test, which I doubt they do anymore. But that was definitely a standout memory, and the fact that I did pass it was even better.
I love the fact that doing news and interviewing people, I get to tell stories, I get to share insights, I get to learn about what's going on in the world. When I was a kid and we'd sit around the supper table every night, everybody would share their stories of the day. My first question always was, can I tell people? Well, thanks to what I do for a living, I get to tell people all day, every day.
What I like most about radio is the fact that it's unpredictable. I mean, who would have thought that some dude from Milwaukee, Wisconsin who went to Detroit and then went to school in England would be working in Tijuana. Once again, let me just show you, this is Tijuana. This is what you can look forward to. You get to run a weird punk rock station in downtown TJ. You can cross the border and climb to the top of a huge mountain and broadcast to all of Los Angeles and Santa Barbara.
I guess my favorite part was just the people that were there and the teachers that were there. I believe Specs had been around for maybe 5 or 6 years already, maybe 10, I'm not sure, but I was just thrilled to go there and pursue my love of voiceover, and I always wanted to be a disc jockey ever since I was a little kid, and I thought this was my ticket. And so I was just excited that there was a place that could offer me an education in what I really wanted to do.
Bob Bauer, Halloran, Ed Victor, Alisa Z.
The thing I like most about my job is being able to create every day and getting paid for what I love to do, and having the opportunity to do things that a lot of people don't get the chance to do. Getting on stage, in introducing a band at Pine Knob in front of thousands of people, leading a crowd and take me out to the ball game at Tiger Stadium, meeting the occasional celebrity or rock star. Having those very fortunate opportunities has really been cool.
Landing at some of the major stations in the market, historical stations, working at WWJ. They've been around 100 years. They just celebrated their 100th birthday, and I thought that was prestigious. And working at WJR, I haven't won individual awards in AP or MAB, but I won team awards for breaking news or best coverage. And I was really proud of that. One was when Bo Schembechler passed away, and I kind of led the coverage, a team effort, and I love being part of a team. And WWJ's news team is just incredible. And also breaking story when the Tigers went to the World Series in 2006. I'm there, I'm on that day. I actually called Maglio's home run on the air because we came back from a break. I'm setting up the college scoreboard show, but I'm also resetting the game. Right when I was done resetting it, he hit the home run, and then we went into breaking news coverage, and we won an award for that with all the people on the air and off the air. Those were some of the highlights. There's been a lot of them. Just meeting so many great athletes of our time. That was certainly a big thrill.
The biggest accomplishment in my career would have to be building the new facility for Greater Media in Royal Oak Township. 3 radio stations moved in there. 5 of them are there now. The whole facility was nothing but sand and dirt when I started on it, and I finished with 37,000 square feet of studio and office space, which is still a state-of-the-art facility to this day. That'd have to be my biggest accomplishment.
I love what I do. I've never had to work a day in my life. Every day I come and it's different. I never get bored. And what a treat it is to wake up every morning and actually like going to work.
I also wanted to say that I'm humbled and I'm honored to be part of the 50th anniversary Hall of Fame induction. If someone would have told me back in 1987 that I would have been part of the school's legacy, I wouldn't have believed them. So thank you very much for believing in me, and as much as I believed in Specs Howard, incredible school.
One of my favorite memories from Specs Howard was doing a TV newscast with a team of people, and at that time the school was on 8 Mile, and across the street was an adult bookstore. So we were doing a news report on the effects of the bookstore in the neighborhood. And as we were doing some of the setup shots with the video, we realized that on the front door of the business was a sign that said, "Enter in the rear." And we all got a good laugh out of that.
I look forward to going to class all the time. We had classes 3 days a week. I interned 3 days a week at WNIC in Detroit and Keener 13. I just love being into the business. I didn't always dream of getting into radio, but it just happened one day, and I'm glad I heard the commercial, came in, talked to some people. I was in classes like 3-4 days later, and I was just so excited to be a part of it, because I listened to a lot of radio growing up, both music, Tiger baseball, and everything. And so it was just always fun to come in, because I was going to college for a while and it was boring and I didn't know what to do. By going to Specs Howard, I knew what I wanted to do.
I do remember having an overall feeling, and the overall feeling that I got at Specs Howard was one that is indescribable. It was knowing that you were on a road to a career that you were going to love, and that the future was very bright. And the people there were wonderful. All of them were very positive. And I always had a great feeling every time I showed up for class. I always enjoyed every minute of it. And I enjoyed my classmates as well. And I could see that they were getting a similar experience.
My favorite part about attending Specs Howard School, without a doubt, was it was the first time in my life, in my young life, 17 at the time, where I was around people that I shared interests with. We were all had the love of radio, the love of media, the love of communication, and I'd never been in that environment before where everybody around me had the same vision, the same dreams, and that's what I remember best about my time at Specs.
Pat Batchelor, Uncle Buck, Tony D'Annunzio, Jeff DeFran, Mike Kernan, Brian Maloney.
What was some of my favorite parts about attending the Specs Howard School of Media Arts? Well, 8 Mile. That's one of the favorite things because I'm old school. I went to the school when it was on Northland Drive and 8 Mile, and just driving there, coming into the building, I actually remember the smell. But one of the favorite things that I loved doing was editing, using a razor blade and grease pencil. I told you it was old school. And doing a live broadcast. We actually mimicked a live broadcast out in the hallways of the building, and people got a chance to come by. It was a lot of fun. My hands were sweaty because I was scared, but it prepared me for doing live broadcasts and anything live, even going on stage announcing bands, so it was really cool.
My favorite part about attending Specs Howard was something I didn't even realize at the time, that 40 years ago when I walked into the school to begin my PD 980 class, back before there was, television and digital and all of the other things that the school was gravitated to. In those days it was radio and just radio, and the friends that I made at that time are still people that 40 years later I can still call, I can still reach out to, I still have professional and personal dealings with as well. And again, can't begin to thank the school for that opportunity enough.
I've often said that I didn't go to college because I was too busy learning, and that's what I love most about going to Specs Howard, is that I can go to this great school and learn the things that I needed to know to break into radio. So every day I'd get to go to class and learn newscasting and audio editing and putting together radio shows and learning it from instructors who were in the business and successful. So while my friends might have been learning some weird English lit that they forgot all about after the exam, I got to learn real world stuff, and I love that about Specs Howard.
I was a student twice, and because I also worked here, I have so many favorite memories of being here. As an instructor and as a staff member here, honestly, it's any time that I was in a classroom teaching students, that's the joy that I've carried with me my entire professional career in life.
What was my favorite part about attending Specs Howard School? Probably the instructors, the teachers. Obviously many of them had long careers on air, so they were really engaging and interesting, and that was good for me because I was working full-time, and a lot of times I was pretty dozy when I hit the classroom, and had we not had great instructors who were great at speaking, I would have probably slept through many of them. I think I did sleep through the meter reading portion of the course, but anyway, it's probably just the fact that the teachers were so entertaining when they gave lectures.
I would say I like the most just being able to speak to people who may be hurting, and this has been a tremendous year for that. And just knowing that sometimes people listen to the station because they can't get to church.
and they want to be able to listen to some music or a person who will uplift them, and I'm grateful to be able to be that person. I also love the industry. I'm just a radio person. I listen to all kinds of radio, from public radio to even my station. I love my station. But yeah, I just think the industry right now is having a boom because people need that connection.
What I like most about my job is that it's not the same thing every day. It can be maybe a breaking news story. Maybe it's something that happened immediately that you can put together a promotion around. Maybe it's a brand new song. It's an artist coming out with a superstar release and you get to break it and you get to be the person to debut that to the audience. It can be everything from the camaraderie in the hallways to contributing on a national level to national promotions that are done in multiple markets across the country. The fact that it's not the same thing every day is still one of my favorite things about being on the radio.
I'd say the biggest accomplishment I had in my 20-year radio career was just the fact that I did it. I wanted to be a DJ on the Riff since I was 4 years old. So the fact that I was able to get on that radio station for 14 years and be a part of that team and work with the people that I did and do the things that I was able to do, that alone is the biggest accomplishment for me.
I think the biggest accomplishment I've had is the fact that I was fortunate enough to find what I love to do early in life and find a place that connected me to it and helped me find and develop a level of self-esteem about who I was and what I do and how I can contribute and how I can grow and have that kind of fulfillment every day, because I do consider myself very fortunate. A lot of people don't love what they do and are able to do it for a living, like I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to do. So in that, being able to connect to what I love to do professionally and do it, and I like to think do it fairly well, you know? And that's not just in terms of being a creative, but that's also having been a teacher, an instructor, and been a part of people's lives. That's incredibly powerful, and that's been incredibly meaningful to me.
My biggest accomplishment, I would say probably getting into this Hall of Fame. I mean, it's a pretty elite group, and it includes a lot of people I listened to while growing up, and you know, I would say probably people that influenced me without even knowing it. That, and as far as what I actually did during my career, I mean, I had rating successes and failures like all of us, but I had a chance during that TV stint where I pretty much I could do anything I wanted to with a camera guy. And so I was always a fan of George Plimpton, and I got a chance to do some kind of what's the best way to say it? I guess I was actually acting as a sports person multiple times. I was able to play a shift for the Rivermen hockey team, which is a professional team, ECHL in Peoria. Got scored on there. And then also I got a chance to kick an extra point for the indoor football team before 10,000 people, which was really exciting, and I actually made that, and had a chance to do something with the minor league team in baseball also, which was a Cardinal affiliate. So those were some of the cool things. Participatory journalism, I guess you would say.
Randy Miles, Jerry Noble, Arthur Regner, Mike Staff, O'Neill Stevens, Donald Walker, Paul Doc Watson.
My favorite part about attending Specs Howard was the camaraderie that we had in our class. RTV 1194, we were really tight. We were all pulling for each other, helping each other out, and it was just awesome to be in a position like that.
My favorite part of attending Specs probably would have to be they let me do whatever I wanted to do. As far as I was able to try different things. So where there was different topics, or if I didn't want to do set design, I was able to be talent a lot, which at the time I really enjoyed. But I was able to do lots of different things, which in the industry, you're not always able to do that. Sometimes there are union jobs and you can only do specific things. I was able to get my hands on a lot of different things at Specs so I could kind of figure out exactly what I wanted to do. Like I said, I thought I wanted to be talent when I attended Specs, and as it turns out, I like being behind the scenes better. So I was able to do both aspects, and I enjoyed that.
Without a doubt, my favorite part about attending Specs Howard was the fact that it was so interactive and hands-on. I think the first week that you were going to school, you were in the studio and you got to play DJ and work with audio, and at that time actually cut tape. And it was really cool to be a part of that right off the bat, and also work with instructors who had been in the business, who had really done it to show you the way.
I can't pinpoint a favorite part of Specs Howard because so much of it was my favorite part. The school was made for me. It was the kind of place that when I got out of high school, it was the place that I was supposed to go. It made the most sense. So everything about it was my favorite part.
My favorite part about attending Specs Howard was really that I met so many other people that were interested in the same thing that I was, really for the first time. Even in college radio, where I first got a taste of this, most of the people that were there were doing it as a hobby, something kind of fun. They weren't looking at ways to turn this into a career. But at Specs, that's what everybody was trying to do. So I met a lot of very serious, like-minded people that were trying to make a difference and trying to be good at this and trying to find a way forward in this profession. And when you get a chance to work with people like that who are trying as hard as you are, and in some cases trying harder than you are, well, it rubs off. And you put together something a lot better as a result of that. That was my favorite part about attending Specs Howard, is the great people that I met while I was there, not to mention the fact that it was really a hands-on experience.
My favorite part about attending the Specs Howard School was the closeness and the feeling of family that came through all of our days there. Back in '92, things were a lot different, but things were a lot the same. A diverse bunch of folks, all together in the same class, becoming family. That was a very cool experience.
I consider my biggest accomplishment, there's two things that come into mind. Number one, being named a Heisman Trophy voter. That's for college football's best player. That's something I just thought was so cool growing up. I used to sit there on that Saturday in December and just think to myself, how cool that would be. And then, you know, years later to be able to vote for that is pretty special. And I always wanted to get to the NHL. When I was a young kid, I wanted to be a player, and then reality hit and I sucked. So I thought, what's the next best thing? And that's to broadcast a game. So to be able to do Carolina Hurricanes games on Fox Sports Carolina, it's a dream come true. It really was.
I love that I was able to work in the market and station that I grew up watching. So growing up in Detroit, I didn't really want to watch news. And going into the business, I didn't want to work in news because I always thought it was so sad and depressing. My parents would watch Channel 4 all the time. So I know, you know, when I told them I was working at Channel 4, they were excited because they had always watched that station. But I really wanted to get more into the sports and the entertainment end of it. But I love being able to tell the stories of my town, of a place where I know lots of people that I grew up with that have gone on to do great things, and I'm able to tell their stories. So that's probably what I love the most. And I still want to be here. I still want to be in this business. I still feel there are more stories that need to be told, and I still feel very comfortable telling stories and being in the community that raised me.
What I like most about my job is the fact that it's creative. And every day has a similar structure to it, but a little bit different inside. And you know, if you're on the air, you've got to be on the air at a certain time, but you're always kind of working. You're always kind of thinking about what you're going to talk about, thinking about what you're going to do, what you can bring from your personal life or what's going on in the community. I think the key to radio is being local, and how you can be a local personality and bring that to your radio station is fun, and it's challenging, and it's rewarding. And seeing people that listen to you or come to your events and meeting them, it's very fulfilling and rewarding.
In radio, I was always told that I would have to move to a small market. I was always told that I have to go to Escanaba. I was always told that I would work for pennies a day and eat mac and cheese for 6 months straight. And I vowed to stay in Detroit, and I always did. All of my jobs Outside of a stint out in Ann Arbor, which is still the Metro Detroit area, really, all of my jobs were in Detroit, and I love the fact that I got to stay in the city that I love and work for so long.
Let's see, what do I like most about the job and the industry in general? It's simple for me. I have been lucky enough to meet some of the most interesting people on the planet, whether they be politicians, artists, business people, musicians, athletes. I've covered the World Series. I've covered, sporting events and playoffs and all kinds of fun stuff. And I've also had tons of live music on my show. And I've interviewed a ton of politicians over the years and, vice presidents and presidents. It's all been remarkable. And as somebody who likes to read and somebody who likes to do research and somebody who likes to talk to people, I can't think of a job that would be any better suited to me. I get paid to read and talk to people and write occasionally, which is not a big deal. It just goes hand in hand with it. But for me, that's not a job. That's just living your best life. And that's been it for me. The people I've met, the things that I have learned, every single day, I learn something new. And there are not a lot of jobs out there that you can say that about. But this one has definitely given that to me, and I will be eternally grateful for it.
What I feel is my biggest accomplishment in this career was actually achieving the goal that I set out for when I was a student. When I left Specs Howard in '92, I wanted to be a director. And within 2 years of that, I was a director, and still, all these years later, I still am. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Sean Belegian, Phil Becker, Cherie Calhoun, Ben Coburn, Michael Conrad, Craig Foley, Donnie Hops.
My favorite part about attending Specs Howard, I have to say honestly, there were so many components that were great to me. But what I really loved about my time here at Specs, what I can remember even all these years later, is just the cohesiveness, the teamwork. With all of the students, we felt like a team, not just a class coming in. And, throughout the duration, we really had each other's backs. Knowing this was a new experience for all of us, we all had big dreams about going into broadcasting. And just the fact that we all worked together, that was really, seriously, my favorite part of being here at Specs.
Do I have a standout memory of my time in class? I have multiple standout memories, but the one that sticks in my brain the most, our class was part of a talent show at Specs Howard. And we dressed up like the Beatles and performed a song. I don't even remember the song, it's been so long now. But the best part about that was none of us knew the lyrics to the song. So halfway through it, we just kind of hummed our way through. It was a lot of fun, but that's one of the memories that I have the most that sticks out from Specs Howard.
One of my standout memories from being a student at Specs is when WYCD 99.5 was broadcasting for one of their open houses. And Donald Walker came and got me out of class. I think it was Tom Proffitt's class. And I was asked to represent the student body of Specs Howard at that time live on the air. That was like the biggest rush in the world. I was on a high for like days because of that.
What was my favorite part about attending Specs? Just being amongst the people that wanted to learn the same things I want to learn, handling the technology of broadcasting and video technology. That's what I wanted to get into, and that's what I'm doing.
Working in the Detroit market, having worked simultaneously for two stations that I grew up essentially listening to, and getting to work on both of those stations in, this market. Detroit is where I was born and raised, doing news and information radio for those two stations that I grew up listening to in Detroit, where I could share it with all of my friends and family. That has been a huge accomplishment for me.
My biggest accomplishment is the fact that I've been doing this for going on 24 years and I'm still here. I love it. I've had many accomplishments, but being able to stay in this field and in this business and move up and become an actual marketing director for some of the biggest radio stations around, I can't explain how much that means to me. So the success I've had
would be my answer to that.
I would have to say the biggest accomplishment in my career is that throughout the years I've had the opportunity to be in many different day parts, but I've been able to be a part of 3 different morning shows, which really and truly is an accomplishment if you know me, because I am not a morning person at all, like not even a little bit.
I guess my biggest accomplishment is still being in the same place after 23 years, doing what I love, radio and the music industry.
Harlan Huckleby, Charlie Langton, Tracy McCaskill, Ben Perez, Renee Vitale, Scott West, Ron Wiswell.
My favorite part about attending Specs Howard was that you got hands-on experience right from day one. You were introduced to both television and radio, and you got to dive right in and experience every aspect of both radio and television, and it really let you know which track you wanted to follow. I chose radio, but now I work in TV, so I got to experience both sides of those mediums, and I got a feel for each one, and I think that is an experience that you just can't get everywhere.
I think my favorite part about attending Specs Howard, honestly, and this is gonna sound so deep and cheesy, but I mean it, it's the first place where I felt comfortable to be myself. You know, when you're in high school, you're trying to fit in with this group or that group. Like I played sports for a while, so I was kind of with the jocks. Then I played in bands for a while, so I was kind of with the music nerds, but didn't really fit in anywhere. And I walk into Specs Howard literally my first day, and everyone's so nerdy and so creative and so different that it was the first place I really felt like home. And there's a million things I took away from coming to school here, but that was the biggest takeaway, that I kind of like found out who I was.
My favorite part about Specs Howard was just the camaraderie. Everyone was there for the same reason. Everyone was there because they had an interest in radio or television, and they wanted to give it a go. They wanted to try this as a career. They'd always dreamed about doing it, and we were all there for the same reason. That was my favorite part of attending Specs Howard.
What I like most about working in media, and specifically television, is just that no day is like the day before it. The news is never the same, it's ever evolving, and I can't think of another job that is similar in any way, shape, or form. Every day changes, the news is always new, and especially in the political climate that we're in, it's a much shorter news cycle, and it is certainly ever evolving.
I think the biggest one is the one that just kind of happened, getting syndicated on Throwback 2K across the country. I think for a lot of jocks and DJs in my position, that's kind of like, that's the bar. That's the highest upper echelon you can go in radio, is getting nationally syndicated. So when people ask me about it and talk to me about it, I still get nervous because it hasn't set in yet. It's still kind of new. We're still building the show. So it's unreal to me to think I can do a show from my home studio here in Detroit and it's heard across the country. That to me still hasn't computed yet in my brain.
Ooh boy, my biggest accomplishment in my career. That's a tough one. I will say this, I've gotten bonused every single quarter since 2008. So that as far as an accomplishment, I've been top 5 in men 25-54 ever since 2008. I've never missed a bonus.
Amy Andrews, Al Beck, Paul Cicchini, Chris Cruz, Bill McAllister.
The instructors, the people that went there, and just the atmosphere of Specs Howard. I can't pick just one favorite thing. It's all of those things.
My standout memories from being at Specs was, honestly, it's probably the friends and family I made coming to the school. I have so many people from my class that I'm still in contact with, and 2 of them I consider my brother and sister now. So definitely the friendships and the networking I made coming to the school.
So my favorite part about attending Specs Howard was the other classmates and my teachers. The teachers were really fun. They taught me so much, and I guess that's the more important thing than the fun, although the fun does help. And being around another bunch of other people who really want to get started in the business was inspiring in a lot of ways. You know, like we had a bunch of us trying out, and we're all trying to hustle and trying to find our first jobs in TV and or radio, or now it's digital arts. But we were all trying for the same goal, and being around a group that really wanted to do stuff like that was really inspiring for me.
My favorite thing about attending Specs Howard was the friends that I've made that I'm still in touch with after all these years, and the great instructors that were here that actually worked in the industry, so they had firsthand knowledge of what it takes to be successful. And I think it's kind of helped me grow my career, just the things that I learned from not only the instructors, but the other talented people that I had a chance to meet when I was attending Specs Howard.
I like entertaining people every day. I like having fun doing what I do. I like interacting with listeners. I like becoming friends with them. I like having relationships with them. I like being a part of the community. It's just, radio for me is the best job in the world.
What I like most about my job is it's always something new. My days are never the same. I always go in. There's always a challenge to get across and find ways to get things done. And I'm able to do things for people that people couldn't do for themselves. Like we just gave away $10,000 last week. Like nobody just goes, here's $10,000. We've given away babies. I've taken sick kids to Walt Disney World on all expenses paid trips. So that's definitely my favorite part about my job.
You know, my best accomplishment personally, I mean, I've done a lot of things and a lot of varied things in this business, but I think being willing to take the risks in leading me to this point has been my greatest career accomplishment.
My biggest accomplishment, I had a bucket list of things that I wanted to do, and one of them was doing morning drive in Los Angeles, which is the epitome of radio or television. Like all the most talented people from around the world go to Los Angeles to get a job. And that was my goal. That was my career goal, to make it to LA and do TV and radio, and I did it.
Reed Pettipren, Joe Piez, Cody Trombley, Aaron Vermeulen, Brad Weimer.
I think one thing that really stood out during the time of my life that I attended Specs Howard was just how close I got with that group of people that I went through the journey with.
What was my favorite part about attending Specs Howard? I'd have to say it was just the atmosphere, the instructors. I enjoyed all of them and could probably name every single one to this day. I still keep in contact with many of them.
Just a standout memory that I have in the time in the classes are just the people that I met. I met some really incredible, like-minded, creative people, and I've stayed friends with most of them still to this day. We still text and through Facebook and everything. So the people themselves were the memory.
My favorite part about attending Specs was how hands-on all the classes were. I learned way better being shown how to do something versus being taught from a textbook. And at Specs, they're just really hands-on with their learning.
A standout memory from class was the moment Randy Miles told me I was doing a great job, but I needed to find my own voice. It was great advice coming from my family background, which she knew, in addition to just everyday life practice. I will never forget that, and honestly, it has been something that's stuck in my head over the last few years of my career. Just, finding your voice and following your own voice. It's very important, and it can help you through this path.
I think one thing though that really gets me emotional is listening back to old air checks and watching back on old interviews that I've done and seeing how I've grown, because I really, really work on this, and I work on getting better all the time. I don't ever see myself as getting to a ceiling and I'm like, oh no, I'm great. I always think there's room to improve. And even if you are a great jock that's in a great position, the world's evolving and there's always places and things that can make you better.
I focus on print, but in my industry, in the design world, everything's always changing. There's always something new. There's always a new challenge. It's never the exact same thing every day, and that's what I really love.
I love the technical aspect of it, and just in general, the knowing that we get information out to the people is very important.
What I like most about my job is how fast-paced it can be. I do live news, so every day and every show is different. Nothing's ever the same. And besides that and the exhilaration you get from doing stuff live on the air, I would say the people is my favorite part. You know, I've gotten to work with a lot of people in the news industry that I grew up watching on TV, and it's surreal to be like their co-worker now and consider them a friend.
I consider my biggest accomplishment in my career this moment right here. I can list the shows I've been on, the shows I've worked on, the shows and production companies and producers that I've worked with, the networks that I've worked under. But there is no bigger accomplishment for me in this moment than attending and graduating from Specs Howard and accepting that journey that followed behind it.
Ken Haddad, Julia Lapidi, Steve Linville, Andrew Miller, Wesley Nodell, Taylor Sharp, Christopher Skelly, Joe Warner, Nicole Welch. Congratulations to the 50 new inductees to the Specs Howard Hall of Fame. We'd also like to take a moment to honor and remember some of the Hall of Fame members that we've lost over the years. Let's talk about a legend, someone everybody knows. Our Vice President of Industry Relations, Dick Kernan, has been with the school almost since the beginning, and everyone in the industry counts on him for information, new employees, and keeping track of what goes on in the business, and he has done that just about forever. Back in 1978, I was running a small radio station in Ann Arbor, and at least a couple times a year, Dick Kernan would come by, see what our needs were, what kind of people we wanted to hire, and what was going on with us. So he became a source of information over all these years for folks who wanted to know what's going on in the business. We didn't talk to each other so much, but we all talked to Kernan, and he became a very valuable resource to the grads, to the students, to the staff at Specs, and everyone in the industry. So this year, our 2020 Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Dick Kernan.
Working at Specs Howard and getting to go out and interview so many different graduates from all different years, from the 70s all the way through today. The one person they always ask about is Dick Kernan. How's Dick? How's he doing? And they always tell these incredible stories.
First day of class, when you explain to all of us bright-eyed, bushy-tailed people with delusions of grandeur, you got on your knees in a three-piece suit and drew a little line on the bottom of the molding to show us where we would have to start to be successful in this business. And I still remember that today, and you were 100% on the mark, sir.
Dick Kernan was one of my instructors, and I had fallen asleep in his class because I was exhausted. And I remember him tapping me on the back of the head, and he goes, Aaron, and I was out like a light, and he goes, a Super 8 would be cheaper, you know. And I will never forget that moment, and I was like, Mr. Kernan, I'm so tired.
I mean, the man is legendary.
I can't think of someone more deserving. That man is unbelievable. The stories and the advice that he shared when I was a student, when I worked at Specs, that's something I take with me forever and ever. And I can only hope that I can accomplish half of what that man has done with his career in broadcasting.
How does he not impact you and your career? You had to see him before you got out of here. I think sometimes you had to see him so that he could give you the once-over. But he is responsible specifically for getting me every single job that I've ever held in radio.
Dick Kernan has made one of the biggest impacts on the school, and it's made up of 100 million little impacts.
I have adored you. You have been there for me every single time I needed you. You have supported me, you have guided me. I honestly do not think I would have my career without you.
When I first met him, I didn't know how to handle Dick, because his personality, those that know him know what I mean. He's a bit of a curmudgeon, but he's just a really good guy, big heart.
Detecting and knowing without a doubt, this man did not play. Staunch leader, assertive, dynamic, but so genuine. You know, he wasn't there to be our peer. He was absolutely a leader, but I just knew, I was like, wow, he's gonna be tough, but he wants us to win.
He just made sure that we understood, here's what it is, and then make it what you need to make it to make yourself successful.
First day I met him, he's like, hey, listen, radio's gonna be tough. If you don't like it, there's the door. And he's right about that. Radio is a tough business to be in, but Dick Kernan, congratulations.
He is synonymous with this school. You know, everybody who has ever walked through the building, whether it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, whether it was 6, 8 months ago, is always asking about, well, what about Uncle Kernan? Where's Uncle Kernan? Or what can you tell me about him?
One of the coolest things that I always tell people about Dick Kernan, especially to young students, is listen to that guy. Listen to all the instructors, but listen to that guy. There's a wealth of knowledge. So thanks for everything, Uncle Dick.
It's just nice knowing him because what he did for me. And again, he told me, well, we don't have sports, but learn as much news as you can and how to do the news on the radio, and that'll help you in sports. And that was great career advice for me.
I've had a career of adventure, great friendships, and I've made a lot of money. And I owe a lot of gratitude to Dick Kernan for that.
Dick Kernan has been a fixture at this school as long as I've been here, and apparently as long as anybody can remember.
So Dick Kernan always has in my head the standout euphemisms, Taco Hell, you're gonna get fired 10 times before you make it in radio, it's what the business is. But he's always been someone really good to talk to, even after leaving the school and coming back. It's always one of my favorite people to catch up with.
Yeah, I remember him coming into a few of our classes, and he just told us straight up, if you're looking to make $1 million right out of graduating, then you're doing the wrong thing. It takes hard work and dedication, and I've applied that to my career.
I was a member and a proud member of the Clue Bus, and I still ride that bus every day right here to the Beasley Media Studios.
Dick Kernan has always helped shape my career path and helped guide me.
One thing that Dick Kernan really, I think, means to the school and to his 50 years in the industry is he has been around so much, he knows so many people, he's seen the industry evolve, and he's passed on that information to the school so that we can evolve and that we can stay relevant.
I could always get a straight answer out of you about anything I wanted to know. And you were always very supportive of me and my career and everything that I was trying to do.
He was always someone who was always available, always helpful, and very straightforward, and that's what I liked about him. I knew I'd get the right answer, the honest answer from him.
He gave me great advice throughout the years. I know when I got fired for the first time, he was the first guy I called, and he said, you know, get on the radio as soon as you can, no matter where you can get, and that was great advice, and I used it multiple times.
Dick has always been one of the people rooting me on. I have always talked to Dick in every single stop I've made across this country, about every job I've changed, all my career accomplishments. Dick and I have always gone back and forth on it because he's there. He's just always the person behind me kind of rooting for me.
I am blessed and grateful to have worked with you every day for the last 23 years, and I'm also blessed to call you family.
Without Dick Kernan, I could very well not have had the career I had, for sure.
Mr. Kernan knew what he was talking about. He was definitely driving the Clue Bus. There's no doubt about it.
Man, that guy hooked me up in life. He essentially got me my first job. He secured my second job. He got me my third job, and I'm still there. And you know, not a lot of people can say that, and that's all from Dick. So very grateful to Dick Kernan.
When something good happened in my career, I made 2 phone calls. My parents and Dick Kernan. And sometimes not in that order.
I was lucky enough to go out with him last year, and we went and did a school visit, and just the way he talks and connects with people,
No wonder why businesses are still letting our students come work for them, because he is just a networking monster, and he has just done so many great things for this school.
We had lunch at the Golden Mushroom where Dick was like the mayor. Everybody knew him. And then I used him as first call for talent at WHYT.
Dick Kernan impacted me by getting me my first job at WKTN Radio in Kenton, Ohio.
So Dick Kernan, you know we love you. We love you more than anybody on the planet. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here today, standing in downtown Tijuana, where I would normally broadcast from.
And if you look back at any students specifically that have had him and the impact he had, you'll hear every one of them mention Chalupa and Taco Bell. And those were labs that have carried on for 20 years of my career.
When we first met, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him that I was a huge fan of public radio, and his eyes lit up, and he had a big smile on his face, and he's like, I love public radio. I don't get a ton of people here that come here that want to get into public broadcasting, but you do. That's awesome.
It's hard to believe that it's been 50 years since you allowed me to take you to lunch and answer most of my questions about this thing called radio.
Dick Kernan, when I graduated, he is the one who gave me the confidence and the kick in the butt that I needed to go get my first job.
The fact that Dick was always a sounding board that wasn't a boss or somebody that had a direct financial interest in you, that allowed him to just kind of lay it all out and explain what really was going on in the situation, that could help you make clear, level-headed decisions as best as you can.
It was Dick Kernan who sent my audition tape to Randy Z, the father of my children, with a note that I think Randy still has that says, she's the boss's daughter, but I think she's pretty good anyway. So thank you, Dick, for the impact you've had on my life and my career.
One of the things I love about Dick Kernan is he's one of these guys that always remembers a name. Doesn't matter if he hasn't seen you in 20 years, he'll remember your name. And he's one of those guys who is more interested in talking about you and your life than telling you about his.
I'm so grateful that you've been a part of my life from the beginning of my career, when I would call you and say, you need to get me out of here or I'm going to become a hairdresser.
Dick Kernan was the first person when I decided that I wanted to teach at Specs. Back in the day, he was the first person that I got on the phone and had a conversation with. And he encouraged me to come down here to the school and apply for an instructor position. So I think Dick had a huge part in that.
His impact on thousands of graduates and non-graduates in the business will always, he will always be remembered for that and his input.
Dick Kernan impacted my life through opportunity. He helped open the door for us graduates all alike, and we truly, truly appreciate you, Dick.
He was very proactive with women getting into this industry and being respected in this industry as not just sidekicks, but real people who are really good at their job, and I thank him for that.
I just always respected him for remembering a lot about me and knowing that when he called me with an opportunity, that it fit into what I was actually doing or wanting to do. He had that magic about him.
It has been just one of the honors of my life
And
or his
mine.
life to call you not just colleague, but such a close and dear friend.
Dear friend.
So congratulations on this achievement and this honor.
He's just been a shining light to the testament of what Specs has been and what Specs has to look forward to in the future.
Dick's just got that infectious, just like energy. He's one of those people, they always say, you absorb the most dominant traits of people you're around the most, and Dick's a prime example of that. Just being around that dude makes you hungrier, makes you more driven, and I think just makes you just kind of better overall.
He's been one of my biggest supporters and one of my biggest mentors. For that, I thank him every day for all the stuff that he's given to me.
Whenever I was at a crossroads in my career, or at a fork, it seemed like I could talk to Dick and he would always know which way to turn. So for me, I love the laughter that we shared, and of course I love the mentorship that Dick so freely gave me.
His whole passion for the business and for every single one of us was there every single day. It was never a job to him. Working at Specs was never a job to Dick. It was love, it was joy, it was life, it was all of that.
There was no doubt
in my mind that Dick really was an important component to what Specs was.
He was the technical heart of our school. I mean, Dick Kernan is the kind of person that makes an IT guy excited to come to work every day.
He's like the heartbeat of Specs. That's all I can say. He is the heart.
Not only am I blessed to call you family, I am blessed to call you a friend and a teacher and a mentor. Thank you for all that you did for me, Dick. I love you.
I was looking to hire some people, and a good friend of mine, Marty Greenberg, was head of the sales department for ABC. He said, why don't you interview him? And Dick didn't want to come over. He said, you work for a broadcast school? You know, I'm ABC. I don't want to work for that. Well, finally, he and I got together and got down to earth about what I'd look for him to do and what he thought he could do for the school. And that was it. That was 1972. That's back when horses just went out and cars came in, I think. It was a long time ago. But Dick came in, and he knew a lot of people in the industry, which was valuable to the school, and he was in charge of placement. What do you do with a graduate when they're finished with a course? You have to get a job. When Dick went out, that was his main thing. He traveled to the small radio stations all around Michigan and told them, hey, we got some good people. He had interviews, tapes that he could take out. And he was phenomenal in getting our placement department started. And as it continues today, has a lot of marks with Dick Kernan's influence on it. And that's how Dick came to the school, has remained all those years with us. Dick had a great impact on students and, more importantly, or as important, the owners of radio stations. Dick was instrumental in going out and just selling the school, and his personality just lent himself to believability. And he took good students that we turned out and said, hey, try this guy. I think he can handle what you want him to do. And we had like 90% placement effectiveness when Dick was going there. As you look back through the history of our school, when graduates come in, people working in various parts of the country and different parts of the industry, and they look around the offices, where's Dickie? Where's Dick? Where's Uncle Dick? And that's the name that they all knew and they all remember and they all love, because he was part of their lives to get out into the industry. And if you take the thousands of young men and women who have graduated from the school and are out there working over our past 50 years, that name stands out not only with a graduate student and an employee, but with the employers. They looked to see Dick Kernan for what he did for them and getting them good people to work there. Dick, we're going to take our hats off to you. You take yours off and show us your wonderful bald head. And I want to tell you, inside that head is an awful lot of compassion, love, devotion, and sincerity to our industry and to the school. And I compliment you on that. And to show our respect and our love for you, for what you've done, we'd like to present you with this Lifetime Achievement Award from the Specs Howard School, from the bottom of our hearts.
Accepting the Lifetime Achievement Award on behalf of his father, Dick, please welcome Bob Kernan.
So I know the first person my dad would want to thank is Specs Howard. My dad, back in 1971 or whenever it was, went home from work one day. He was the program director of WRIF. And he went home from work one day and he informed my mother that he had quit his job. And of course, her first question is, what's your next job? And he didn't know. But somebody told him to go over and see Specs Howard. And so he did, and he took the job there, and he started out doing admissions, believe it or not, and teaching, and then of course transitioned into the job that I think made his entire career and did so much to build this institution, and that was being the VP of Industry Relations. And there was nothing he liked better. As a kid, I remember him being gone for 2, 3, 4 days at a time, and he literally went to any city with a stoplight and saw the radio station there and got to know people and made sure that they had a place for his grads. On behalf of my father, I want to say thank you to everyone, all the students, the grads, as my dad would say, the staff, everybody, for this incredible award. My dad is sorry he can't be here. Unfortunately, due to his health right now, he's not coming out too much, but he is doing well and he thinks of all of you all the time. One of my favorite things to do with him is to sit and talk about grads and talk about the biz and all the people in it. He just loves that, and you all just mean the absolute world to him. And I know how much he's done for all of you, but if he was sitting here, he would want to thank all of you for how much you've all done for him. He always had a grad for everything, so thank you so much for honoring my father in this way. I think that the school embodies him as much as he embodies it, and he could not be more grateful for the experience. So thank you to everyone.
Congratulations, Dick. We love you. That's it for 2020. 50 new inductees. Congratulations. And also thanks to the entire staff, the students, and all the grads, and all the stories at the Specs Howard School. Here's to 50 years of more stories and legends. Thanks for joining us.
This is the man who had a dream many years ago that allowed so many of us to achieve ours.
50 years, incredible. I mean, from a vision that Specs had to what it is today. I mean, you have helped so many people.
And I just wanted to express my congratulations on the 50th anniversary of Specs Howard in 2020.
I tell everyone just what a wonderful impact the experience that I had here at Specs, made on me in my career.
And I'm so fortunate to be just a sliver part of that, just a small part that I can say that I worked with these people, or I helped these students out, or I was just a part of this incredible institution in its overall 50 years of success.
It just is a testament to how important that school is and how good that it's been throughout the years.
I could go anywhere and run into somebody who went to Specs. It's incredible.
It's amazing when you actually find out how many people you see on television or hear on the radio have been through the school, and I think for that, it has just really been an amazing school.
It was all like a family. We all helped each other out. I am who I am because of my experience at Specs Howard.
I love the school, and I will always hold that banner high.
If you're a creative nerd who likes to make stuff, this is the spot for you.
In many ways, I wouldn't be the person I am today if it weren't for this place. This was a place and continues to be a place of dreams.
I'm very proud to have been a small part of this.
Something I'll say about Specs Howard is the networking that comes in and out of that place is really something incredible.
As far as the school, there's no other place like Specs Howard School of Media Arts.
Specs is a hugely, hugely important institution in our community, and it's done a world of good for me, and I'm thankful every day and proud to tell people that I'm a Specs Howard grad.
I'm really grateful to Specs Howard and all of the staff there.
This school is incredible, and I'm truly blessed because of Specs Howard.
And it's just great to look back and see that this school has been able to survive and keep going and flourishing.
I feel like this school in particular is really unique because there's not too many schools around here or even across the country that offer what we offer.
I would not be where I am, period, without what I gained at Specs.
Without Specs Howard and the school that he started 50 years ago, I wouldn't have had the opportunity. So thank you and congrats on 50 years.
My start was at Specs, for sure.
Over the years, I've learned that this company shares a bond like a family type bond.
Specs gave me a lot of opportunities.
But I appreciate what Specs did for me. I mean, I bet on myself and I bet on Specs to come through.
I would say without Specs Howard, yeah, I'd probably be managing a restaurant somewhere, because I wouldn't have had the courage or the confidence to even pursue it without going there.
And I'm like, get out of here. He knows what I've done and everything. And she said, yeah, he listens. He knows you're a Specs Howard grad.
I thank you for helping me get my foot in the door. It is still there.
It's one of the best schools in my mind around,
And I couldn't be where I am today without it.
There's no stopping this school because of the passion that it has for the industry.
It is just a testament to the first 50 years that we can just look forward to the next 50 years.
50 years is nothing, it's just the start.
And I couldn't have been happier about the decision I made over 23 years ago.
And to see that we've gotten to 50 is just absolutely amazing. I'm thrilled that we're still here, still evolving, still adapting to the new media landscape, and who knows, in a couple years we may not know what it's going to look like, but I know we're going to be part of it, and that's really exciting.
They've been able to teach people the basics, roll with the times, and evolve as technology has evolved. I think that's really cool.
Congratulations to the Specs Howard School of Media Arts. 50 years is an amazing achievement.
I'm very proud to be part of this. 50 years.
Whatever you're doing, Specs, I'm glad you're doing it.
So I'm very grateful to Specs Howard School, and I am looking forward to the next 50 years.
Specs, congratulations. It was an honor to have been taught by you.
It's just, again, been my honor to work here.
And the fact that Specs Howard has been able to shape the direction of getting people into places to let them shine and let their talent show is really something to celebrate.
Specs Howard makes this place feel like family, from the students to the staff.
It really has a really good place in Detroit. Detroit is such a special radio market, so it only makes sense that Specs Howard is just such a part of that.
Thank you, Specs Howard, and thank you, Specs Howard School, for everything that you've done for all of us that just had a little dream at one point in time.
Thank you for opening the door to new possibilities in the world of production and entertainment.
Specs has built a community with so many different people. Every time I'm out working at an event, I run into a Specs Howard grad, and we all just have this special bond and connection, and that never would have started if Specs wouldn't have started this 50 years ago.
Specs Howard, I am so grateful for the man, the school, the staff, the family, all of it.
So Specs Howard, happy 50th anniversary. Way to go, and thank you for everything.
It has meant a lot to grow up with this company and with the influence of everyone who's entered this building. And I'm so grateful for Specs, what he's done for our community, for our company, for the radio industry, and for me personally. I couldn't have dreamed of a better lifetime here.
And to be a part of what Specs dreamt is amazing.
It is the steady hand and clarity of vision of my father, Specs Howard, that has made sure that so many of us could be guided to careers, lives, loves, and joy over all these years. So as the saying goes, and I can say it more literally than many, Specs Howard, that's where I started.